Step right up. You think this is politics? Wrong. This is a street hustle on Pennsylvania Avenue, and Donald Trump is running the table. Every tweet is a card flip. Every outrage is a shell game. And Congress. They're the mark betting their last dollar on a card that was never there. He isn't governing, he's conning. 3-card Monte with nuclear codes. The king of distraction didn't just shuffle the deck, he owns the whole damn table. Watch the flair, not random, calculated, biological warfare on the news cycle. He drops the bomb exactly when they can't afford to look away. Committee votes, court deadlines, scandal breaking. It hits their nervous system before their brain engages. Fight or flight, panic drafting, emergency panels. They don't verify, they react, they chase. The flare doesn't need truth, it needs volume. Loud enough to bury the real story 6 feet under the fold. Loud enough to make them sprint toward a finish line. He keeps moving. January 3rd, 2026. Katie Miller, married to Trump's most influential advisor, Stephen Miller, posts an image of Greenland overlaid with the American flag. One word, soon. The next day, Trump confirms on Air Force One that the United States needs Greenland. Suddenly, the biggest crisis in transatlantic history erupts. Oxygen sucked out of every room. Denmark scrambling, NATO allies panicking. For 18 days, the world chases this ghost until January 21st in Davos, where Trump finally admits he won't take Greenland by force, but as the threat, they can say no, and we will remember. 18 days gone, while everyone sprinted toward a territorial fantasy. What happened in the dark? February 24th, 2025. The Department of State orders officials worldwide to deny visas to transgender athletes. February 25th, Attorney General Pam Bondi threatens California, Maine, and Minnesota to keep men out of women's sports. The Social Security Administration closes its Office of Civil Rights and Equal Opportunity. Employees put on administrative leave. February 26th, the Pentagon bans all transgender people from military service. February 27th, the Department of Education launches an NDEE portal for citizens to report schools. February 28th, Health and Human Services moves to strip public comment rights from federal proposals, all while the Greenland chase consumed every headline. This is the machinery. This is the flare. It isn't random. It's biological warfare on the news cycle. Steve Bannon called it flooding the zone, overwhelming the system with so many issues that opposition becomes impossible. The goal isn't victory on any front. The goal is exhaustion. The goal is that you cannot focus long enough to fight back. Watch the timing. August 25th, 2017, one day before Hurricane Harvey struck Texas, Trump pardoned Sheriff Joe Arpaio and banned transgender soldiers. June 14th, 2018, the day Russia hosted the World Cup opening, Putin announced retirement age hikes. Academic research across 40 years of data confirms it. Executive orders are strategically signed on the eve of major distracting events. Not after surprises like earthquakes or terror attacks, before anticipated spectacles, before the Super Bowl, before the hurricane makes landfall, before the news cycle locks onto something else. 24 hours. That's all it takes. The post drops. Phones explode. Staffers don't sleep. They mainline coffee and draft blocking bills against threats that don't exist, while they're playing defense against air. He's scoring touchdowns in the dark. Time is their only currency, and he's bleeding them dry. Agenda dead. Priorities choked. Constituents forgotten. They're not lawmakers anymore. They're lab rats on a wheel he controls, running faster, harder, dumber, because stopping means looking complicit. Stopping means headlines calling them weak. So they run until they find something, any ounce of what they may consider dirt, to point the finger at a president they themselves can't figure out, until they break, until the next flare drops and it starts again. January 2025. Trump signs 37 executive orders in his first week. 37 compared to 4 in his first term's first week. Abolishing DEI in federal government, beginning deportations, removing the U.S. from the World Health Organization, accelerating fossil fuel production. But the headlines? The headlines chase the joke. The bad lip reading video from Jimmy Carter's funeral, the endearing TikTok sound of Melania and Bannon, the humanizing moments manufactured to bury the machinery. Meanwhile, the real play has already finished. March 20th, 2025. Trump issues an executive order to eliminate the Department of Education entirely. March 21st. Homeland Security eliminates civil rights offices, conducting mass layoffs at the Office for Civil Rights and Civil Liberties. March 22nd. Trump issues a memorandum to intimidate law firms from challenging his administration, threatening retaliation against attorneys who represent asylum seekers. March 25th. An executive order creating documentary proof of citizenship to register to vote, designed to silence Black, Latino, Native American, and disabled voters. March 27th. Stripping collective bargaining rights from hundreds of thousands of federal workers. Deregulations signed while they screamed. Judges appointed while they panicked. Budgets gutted while they chased their tails. By the time they catch their breath, the damage is done. The cup was empty from the start. He was never where they were looking, and he's already 3 moves ahead, shuffling for the next con.
The NAACP called this out in June 2025.
President Trump is not governing, he's gaslighting. From stirring up conflict in Iran to unlawfully deploying the National Guard in California. From inhumane mass immigrant arrests to a taxpayer-funded military parade, all while attempting to push through one of the worst budgets we've ever seen. The big, beautiful bill that strips resources from working families, guts protections for vulnerable communities, hands power to corporate interests. War as a tool to disguise legislative harm. Lives as currency for distraction. This is the anatomy of the chase. The opposition doesn't lose on policy, they lose on stamina. They lose because they cannot stop reacting long enough to see the board. While 24 states sued over tariffs in March 2026, Trump was attacking the Supreme Court on social media, deriding his own appointees, Gorsuch and Barrett, for not being loyal enough, calling the court a weaponized and unjust political organization. The tariff story died in the noise. The judicial intimidation story died in the noise. Everything dies in the noise except the noise itself. Here's the gut punch. They know, they all know, and they still run. Because the distraction only works if you participate. The con only pays if you sit at the table. The chase only kills you if you agree to sprint. The research proves it. This only happens during divided government, when Congress and the president are from opposite parties. Executive orders spike before distracting events. When his own party controls Congress, the timing becomes random. He doesn't need the con when he owns the table. He needs the con when he needs to exhaust the opposition. Stop running. One cycle, one flare met with silence instead of screams. One moment where they ask not, how do we block this? But what is he hiding while we look here? The power isn't the card. The power is your willingness to chase it. Stop chasing. The hustle dies. And let's not forget the final hurrah of the Iran war. Tonight, April 7th, is the deadline. Another threat for there to be shock and awe if Iran refuses to comply. An all-out boasting, proudly and bragging of annihilation of innocent people. Is he joking? Is it another distraction? Who the hell knows? We're talking about Donald Trump. We're talking about someone who doesn't see, feel, or think like the average person. If it doesn't make money, show elitism, or produce accolades for the world to witness, he can't seem to relate. News updates are constant. Everyone is glued to their screens, worried, praying, expecting a civil outcome. Networks touting that if he goes through with this, it could mean war crimes. Time will tell. The table's still open. The cards still move. Another treadmill is spinning right now in some windowless room on Capitol Hill. This is the chase. The only way to win is to flip the table and flip it completely. The president isn't playing checkers, people.
He's playing chess. Until next time.